Jim Biringer of Full Press Hockey accompanies me on today's episode of Locked On Devils as we're going to talk about the recent downward spiral the Devils have been taking the last few games because they're currently on a 3-game losing skid. So maybe they'll break it tonight against the Detroit Red Wings. We have a lot to break down in today's episode alongside Jim. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member Trey Matthews. I'm joined alongside my fellow credential media member, Jim Biringer of Full Press Hockey. Jim, I saw you at the Prudential Center last night. Both of us made our way to the Oilers locker room to speak with Connor McDavid, Ryan McLeod, and Adam Ernie. But unfortunately, we wish that it was for better circumstances because the Devils dropped their more recent matchup to the Edmonton Oilers by a score of 6-3. Oilers were on a 3-game losing skid entering that matchup. Seems like the Devils have hit a rock bottom, if that was possible, because they've now lost 3 in a row. So, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I wish this team would be playing a little bit better. You know, going back to last week when I was there for the Bruin game, you saw a character win. The guys talked about it in the room that night. The coach even talked about it. It was a character win. That's the type of win that should propel a team to carry maybe a 5-6 game winning streak, get you back in the standings. You know, they had the saves from Vanacek. It was, he made the saves. That's the type of saves that win you hockey games, especially against, even though the Bruins were down, a couple of guys, they pulled it out. Then the gears kind of fall off against Anaheim, Philly, and again against Edmonton on Thursday night. And funny, the Edmonton game reminded me of the first Washington game of the season. Again, also national television, and they got the doors blown off of them in the third period to start a game after you rally, after giving up the first couple of goals. So again, you just got to find some consistency here. But again, I think Lindy Ruff said it best last night in the press conference as I watched it. They got their ass kicked.
Yeah, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. There's no way around it. And when this episode goes live, the Devils will have another game against the Detroit Red Wings, a team that's also been struggling. But at this point, no win is a guaranteed win for the Devils. Now, you said something interesting to me last night in the press box. You said that you were kind of anticipating for Devils to take a couple steps backwards because you noticed something in preseason that I don't think a lot of people noticed. Do you care to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the couple preseason games that I was at live and then obviously watched on television, yeah, you notice like little details of the game that the Devils have not been able to break or fix. And it starts in your own zone. Getting the puck out, defensive zone coverage, just little details of the game that help you make you a better team down the road and into the playoffs and get you on those winning streaks. Just small little details. Like I remember a game against the Rangers. Jesper Bratt had a chance to get the puck out. Kind of just tries to sauce it out with no don't worry about the icing. Who cares about the icing? Get it out of the zone. Stays in the zone, leads to a goal. Last night, a board battle. You win a board battle early in the third period. Kevin Ball, instead of going behind his own net, try to get it out, make the safe play, goes back up where 6-7 guys are at. Leon Draisaitl intercepts it, backhand upstairs. Just little details of the game that, preseason record 7-0, big deal. Yeah, but, I know the record doesn't mean anything, but when you break it down and you see little mistakes that carried over into game one and have carried over into every game this season, it's a problem. And good defense helps your goaltending, and I know everyone wants to point to that, but if you look at it, when the Devils were a good defensive team last season, their goaltending was top 10. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it in my latest episode, which is Vitek Vanacek and Kira Schmidt, they have their moments, but this game, just full display as to they're not up to par right now because both of them let in 3 goals. Now, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. The goals that they let up aren't entirely all their fault. Like, the defense has to play better in front of them. Like, the first goal that was let in by Akira Schmid against the Oilers, like Brendan Smith and Luke Hughes, they were just too slow to the puck. And by the time Luke Hughes gets the puck, he has to like reach out to try to tap it free so he doesn't get full possession of it, which leads to trouble. And then as a result, Ryan McLeod can go back door and he scores wide open and he's not even guarded. So the thing is like I've been saying it in my show. I'm not sure if you've been listening, but it's just like you need to make some of those crucial saves, similar to what Vitek Vanacek did against the Philadelphia Flyers, which was he made some of those crucial saves late in period 3 and also overtime to try to keep the Devils in the game. Now, albeit they did end up losing in OT, but it's just what I've been talking about. Like last year, both of them were making those crucial saves. And now the thing is like the rosters are frozen until December 28th, according to Bill Spalding of MSG. So if Devils fans are hoping for a quick turnaround or a quick change within these next week or two, it's not going to happen right now.
And it wasn't going to happen before that either, because the Devils are up against the salary cap too, and you're going to have to move some money out. And
here's the thing. Like I say, try to find a 1-year rental, move Dougie Hamilton to LTIR, which I'm confused as to why they haven't done so already, because if they're anticipating for him to be out until the playoffs, then, well, guess what? You might as well just say he's going to be out for a season, because at this pace, the Devils are not going to get to the playoffs if they continue to play inconsistent. I'm not saying that the season is over or anything. I'm just saying, like, where they're heading.
No, I agree with you. No, what I'm saying is, like, everybody's like, oh, go get Zadorov, go get Tanev, go get those guys. Well, when Zadorov got traded, the Devils needed help with retention from Calgary because, again, Dougie Hamilton's not on LTIR. He was only on IR. So once they make that move, yes, they have money to play with. But it starts with the players, and it starts working on your own zone. And look, coach, this guy, it doesn't matter. The players are the ones that have to fix this and have to be better and keep things simple. What did we hear last night from the Edmonton Oilers in that room? We stuck to our plan. We believed in our plan. We kept things simple. When things weren't going their way in the second period, when the bounces weren't going their way, they stuck with their plan. Guys weren't getting down. They just stuck with it, and they found a way to get a victory. And I think that's something the Devils need to do. When they're patient and they play patient, they're a good team. But when they try to get out of that patience, things go haywire.
Yeah, I think that was Ryan McLeod who said that analytically they knew that they were the better team. And I said that in my show yesterday too, because quite honestly, the Oilers were out shooting the Devils heavily in period 2, but the Devils still scored 2 goals to give themselves a lead. And then we all know what happened in the third period, just 69 seconds in, and they let up 3 goals, which is unacceptable. And at that point, it's like people were wondering, well, why didn't Lady Ruff go back to Akira Schmid? I'm just like, it wouldn't have helped either way. Both of them were not on their best game.
No, but what's more troubling is when the team has a day off and you come out with that lack of energy and that lack of desperation, that's a problem too. And Lindy Ruff talked about that in the press conference after I watched it when I got home. And he was talking about that's not like the effort you want from your team when you have a day off and you watch video and you want to be energized when you come out. You want to match the desperation of a team that's on a 3-game losing streak. You want to show, hey, yeah, we may still be in it, but we're not in it if we keep losing. And you need to come out with that energy. Again, you're giving up the first goal. Was that like the 22nd time they've done this season? Something like that. I mean, that's not good. They're a team that plays better with the lead than they are chasing the game, I should say, because you can't rely on what you did last year. But double-digit come from behind victories. And again, don't get me started on come from behind victories when they start early in the second period, because to me, halfway through the game should be a come from behind victory. But again, that's another topic for another day.
Well, I'm actually going to get you started, actually, because this is something I talked about last year, which was the Devils come back from behind victories. I was just like, yeah, that might work this year, but that's not going to work in the future. You cannot be down and then expect a miraculous comeback. Like, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. And It didn't come back to bite them last year, but it's coming back to bite them this year, especially with teams being more prepared for them. Because I've spoken to Kraken players, I've spoken to Ducks players, I've spoken to Oilers players. You were there with me, and it's quite clear that it seems like even if these teams don't want to admit it, teams are more prepared for the Devils this time around, and it just seems like there's no surprises. Like Jack Hughes, he's a player you got to meticulously scout, otherwise you're going to get burned. And what did the Flyers do? They forced him to cough up the puck a couple times. That resulted in a couple goals. We know that Nico Hischier, he was a finalist for the Selke Award. Great two-way player. But teams are going to be more prepared for him. Jesper Bratt, I still think, is the more underrated player, which is why he's seen more success as of late. But when Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier were out, he was struggling. So to each their own. But I had high expectations for this goaltending tandem. Like I thought that they would be just fine. I thought they would be solid. Vitek Vanacek was the first goalie since Martin Brodeur to rack up 30-plus wins in a single season. And unfortunately, he's taken a few steps backwards. So I'm going to ask you this. If you were Tom Fitzgerald, are you looking for a goalie or are you looking for a defenseman? Like, what needs help the most?
Both. I think both need help the most. I think you need to get a guy that's in there that can give you that crucial save. I mean, you saw at Anaheim game on Sunday. John Gibson had lights out first two periods, especially the first period where he faced 14 shots and give up a goal. Like, that's the kind of guy that the Devils needed. And they were available in the offseason. And I said it, in the offseason and after they lost to Carolina, their weakness in goal was going to get exposed, and if they didn't address it, they wouldn't be a Stanley Cup contender. They could compete for the division, but you're not going to go far with that tandem because you need to figure out who can get you a save. But again, the market's really thin. If you look at it, okay, John Gibson, he's the guy. Okay, but he's got 3 years left at 6.4. Well, if they're going to make a trade with the Ducks, who's going back to the Ducks. It's Vitek Vanacek to offset the money and add some other stuff. Okay, you look at defense. Okay, go to Calgary. Tanev's there. Hannafin. But you have that in Hamilton, and you kind of have that in Hughes and Nemec. Unless Nemec is going to go back down, but I don't think he's going to go back down. Tyson Berry's not coming into New Jersey. You already have those types of players. Could you go get an Ilya Lyubushkin from Anaheim to bring that physical presence that you need in front of your net? Because I think that's what they're lacking the most is the physical presence in front of their net, moving guys, because nobody's getting moved, nobody's getting touched, and I think that's a big problem. And I think that's what's hurting the goaltending too, is these goalies now have to make that extra save that they shouldn't be making because the guy's open and the backdoor pass is there, as you talked about on like that first goal. So I think it's a number of things that they're going to look at. But again, I think Tom Fitzgerald really hoped that the players in the system on this team could find a way to turn it around. As I said before, they needed help with retention. And I think once they make that announcement, I think they're going to go get who they need to get to fix this before it becomes too late.
When would you say they would make that move as soon as the roster's unfreeze after the 28th? Do you think Tom Fitzgerald's on the phone line just trying to get feelers out there from other general managers? Because he's fleeced teams in the past before, but now it's just a matter of I think just getting a 1-year rental, quite honestly, will help. Just stop the bleeding this year and then try to fix the main issues during the offseason.
Yeah, I think so. I think once the holiday freeze is up, I think that's when you're going to see the calls being made. I think that's probably when they're going to have a better idea of Dougie Hamilton and what they expect when he's going to actually be back. Because right now, $9 million are still on the books, so you need help. I think you're going to see the goalies move in the new year. But again, you look at it, okay, Gibson's the guy. Okay, but Nashville's playing well. Are they really – is it Saros the guy? Are they going to move him? We're not sure there. And then you look around the league, and it's like, oh, well, Jake Allen has ties because Brodeur played with him in St. Louis. Yeah, but is that an upgrade over Vitek Vanacek? It's like a lateral move. I think that's where you need to look at the defense. You get a guy like Tanev. But again, it's going to come down to where teams are, and teams know that New Jersey's desperate. So I don't know if he's going to be able to fleece teams as he did in the past, where they were kind of flying under the radar. Now everybody knows, hey, we need help here. He might not get the bargains that he thinks he's going to get, or the fans think he's going to get, because everybody knows he's desperate.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the game against the Oilers because you also mentioned this, and I want to touch on it. You were expecting for the Devils to not really come out the gates all that strong. Like you said, you had your story prepared very early. Like, and I know, like, journalists, especially on a deadline, you guys usually want to get a jump start on your story, especially if you feel like the direction the game is going to head. But you had your story prepared early. Do you care to share, like, what your thought process was going into the game, or what your initial reactions to the first period were?
Yeah, so, I kind of have a general idea, like, what I want to talk about during the game and what I want to write about. But once the Devils gave up those first 2 goals early in the period, I kind of said to myself, okay, I think we're going to go with the defensive lapses here. This is where I want to head. This is where I want to write. And I just started writing it. And it was just similar things that what I had said on the radio and other podcasts about, they need to clean up areas. They need things to be fixed. Go back to the beginning against Washington when Lindy Ruff said at the beginning of the year, if we're going to play like this, we're going to make it hard on ourselves. And you continue to see that game after game. And I just go back to that quote and I said, okay, well, that's where we're going to start. And when they gave up those first 2 goals, the backdoor play, and then the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins goal where John Marino is nowhere to be found. And I do not like picking on players because it is tough to play in the National Hockey League. I get it. But positionally, you're not there. And he wasn't there again. And it's been noticeable when he's not been in his place. So from those 2 goals on, I started writing. And then things changed throughout the game. The Devils take the lead. And you're like, okay, well, it's fun. It's finished. You can save it for like a long read somewhere during the holidays when, people are, just around with family. You can just drop it another time. It's just a regular story. But then when they give up 3 goals in 69 seconds, you're like, yep, that's what we're going with tonight, because defensively they just didn't play well. And it's just been a story the whole season. And you could talk about it every game, but last night, everything was just summed up with those defensive lapses. I believe 5 goals were on defensive missed lapses, and 2 of them came on turnovers.
Yeah, so we'll just have to that game was just ugly to see. Yeah, 69 and 3 goals in 69 seconds. I was stunned to realize it was 69 seconds because I tried to be polite and say they gave up 3 goals in like 3 minutes, or less than 3 minutes. But then I was like, oh wait, that's 69 seconds. That's even worse. You're talking about like 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Yeah. Gene Principe Sportsnet was the one that brought that stat to us in the post game. So shout out to Gene Principe for that one.
Yeah. Okay. When this episode goes live, the Devils will be taking on the Detroit Red Wings. When this, as we're recording this episode, this is before that the Red Wings take on the Flyers. But going into the matchup against the Flyers, the Red Wings are currently on a 4-game losing streak, and either outcome, they're still going to be struggling in their last 5 games. So, what are your thoughts heading into the matchup against the Red Wings for the Devils? Like, is this like this is the team that shut them out back in November, and it was the first time the Devils got shut out in over a year, and the prior to that streak starting, the last team to shut them out was the Red Wings. Ironically, the Devils were wearing their black helmets. There's been a lot of hype in Detroit, especially with the signing of Patrick Kane. But I said that's the equivalent of Shaquille O'Neal signing with the Boston Celtics. I put that out there as a joke. I said Patrick Kane is one of the best of all time, greatest American player to ever play the game. And Jack Hughes actually idolized him growing up. But let's face it, after that hip surgery and after everything, I think it's safe to say that Patrick Kane is a little on the other side of his better years.
I would agree with that 100% on Patrick Kane. I mean, look, I saw it last year firsthand when he came into the Rangers. They catered to him, like straight up catered to him, changed the power play, changed the forward lines, everything. You're seeing it again in Detroit. Even though he said he had to earn his ice time and they were going to slow play this thing. Again, how many games is, games to say, hey, he needs to get back into it. He hasn't had preseason. Okay. But again, this hip resurfacing surgery, there's a reason why Father Time wins and these guys don't play as long as they do after that surgery. And look, Detroit was one of those teams that everybody had expectations for, and they were playing well, and then, their goalies are hurt. Again, the New Jersey Devils need to come out and establish this game within the first 5 minutes. They need to play the style of game that everybody expects them to play, that aggressive, hard-attacking, forechecking hockey that you're seeing in Nashville. But I don't know if they have the weapons to do that, but they need to establish the game early. They need to be in Detroit zone. They need to put the pressure on, generate chances. You can't chalk any game up like everybody said, this stretch after Boston. You had Columbus, Anaheim, Philly, Edmonton. Like, that was a stretch where you could have put some things together here and get back into this thing. You want to get a win before that break, before you come back with Columbus coming back in, before some things get even harder in your schedule. I think you got to come out, set the tone early, regardless of what Detroit does in Philly. Take them seriously. They played a good game opening night against this team. Alex DeBrincat shows up against Detroit. Detroit's got a great power play. They got some weapons here. Larkin's back. Again, the goaltending. It's James Reimer. It's Michael Hutchinson. If you're gonna make Michael Hutchinson look like Patrick Waugh, then that's a problem.
Don't worry, there's still more in store with Jim Biringer. But before we continue, I want to tell you guys about the Sleeper app because I'm in the midst of my fantasy football season. I made the playoffs. Unfortunately, I got knocked out in the first round. So let's talk some hockey because the NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Jack Hughes could score 50 goals. The Devils could hoist the Stanley Cup at some point down the road. And you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. You don't just have to participate in hockey. You can also play daily fantasy football, basketball, baseball, college football, all on Sleeper. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Vitek Vanacek, and others will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Devils fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. And now, let me tell you guys about eBay Motors because I am a big NASCAR guy, so I love cars. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's get back to our discussion with Jim Biringer of Full Press Hockey. Take it away once again. Well, let's see if there's more drive for the Devils as the team from the Motor City comes into the Prudential Center. Obviously, we know the history between the Red Wings and the Devils, but yeah, I mean, I think the Devils, they really need to, okay, so if my memory serves me well, they have the Red Wings, then you go into the Christmas break, and then the first team they play out of the Christmas break is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Okay. I've been saying this, and I expected for them to come out and lose again against the Oilers because for some reason Devils have been struggling against the Oilers as of late. So, but what hurts is that they've already beaten the Flyers this year. They could, well, at least they walked away with the point, so I can't really complain in that aspect. But that Anaheim Ducks game, that was a stinker. Like, they should have. That was another trap game in which the Devils right there for them. So I'd say, like Ryan Novozinski said last night after the game, that the Devils are just 4 points away from a playoff position, and they're lucky that the Metro is just very tight. The only team that has really big separation right now are the Blue Jackets in last place.
Yeah, I mean, look, you want to pick up those extra points, and you think about it. So 4 points, right? Those 4 points are the 2 Washington losses. in the Metro or any of those losses to a bad team. You think about it, right? Like you go back, Washington, yeah, they're playing better, but are they really a playoff team? So those are points you probably should have gotten. You threw away points against Columbus earlier in the year, San Jose, Anaheim. Like those are points that you need to win, like against those bad teams. Like I know anybody can beat anybody on any given night, and we've seen it. Toronto, especially, they lose to bad teams, but like you gotta play well against it. Those are points you need. You can't, and it can't be a 3-pointer. You gotta win in regulation. Look, we know the Metro's tight. It seems like every game goes to 3 points with any of these teams. We saw Carolina, Pittsburgh. But again, a team like Philly who's ahead of you in the standings, you get that overtime win, that extra point. That does something against your rival. I think you got to definitely try to get a win Saturday against Detroit when they play, and you got to come out of the breaks and the break hot with Columbus. That's something. And I know David Severson will probably be back for that game, so he's going to be fired up. But
I don't think Severson is set to play the game on the 27th, but I think come January when the Devils go to Columbus, I think he might play, but he's out for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, so again, if he was playing, he'd be fired up, but New Jersey has to be fired up to play a team like Columbus. Even though they're in the bottom of the standings, you got to take care of business. You got to handle your home ice business, and that's a place they've been struggling too.
Right, so we'll see what happens. Jim, any final thoughts before we close, my friend?
Just, let's hopefully they can figure this thing out defensively. Just get some things cleaned up. It's on the players. Again, everybody wants to call for the coach. Coach has got an extension. It kicks in the summer. He's not going anywhere right now unless things really fall off the rails and ownership decides that they want to pay the guy, not the coach, which we've seen. It's happened before, but I think these players want Lindy Ruff to be here. It's on them to turn this around now. It's not on anybody else.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I don't think a coaching change will help the Devils. In my personal opinion, I don't think Lindy Ruff's the main issue. He definitely shares his piece of the pie, but if you're expecting for the Devils to go on like a 10-game winning streak after Lindy Ruff is supposedly fired, I hate to break it to you, but the defense and the goaltending still remains the same. So I don't think that's going to help them. Like look at the Oilers. They had some decent success after they made their coaching change. They went on a winning streak, but now they've kind of hit a rough patch. And obviously they won their more recent game against the Devils, and then they play the Rangers later tonight. But I think we talked about this last night, which is I think the Devils would have to buy out Lindy's contract since if they do want to fire him, since he has an extension that kicks in next year.
Yeah, that's correct. They do. And it'd be similar to what you're seeing in Buffalo and Pittsburgh, where people are like, well, got to get rid of the coach. Well, both guys have extensions. So unless the team really wants to pay these guys to go away, like we saw in Toronto with Mike Babcock, I don't think these owners want to pay coaches to go away when they're paying them $4 or $5 million, $5 million a year to coach a team.
Right. And the thing is like, it's not like Lindy is signed to a 10-year deal or a 10-year extension. I would say it's like 2 years, 3 years max. We don't know the circumstances of the contract.
Right. Exactly. We don't know the circumstances of the contract. All we know is that he had an option in his previous contract that he exercised for this year, and then they gave him an extension, a multi-year extension. So this team, the players want to play for him. Now they have to execute. They have to be the ones to turn this around. And it's just not, you can't change for the sake of change. You got to do it for the right reasons if you're going to make the change. But it's on the players to make this right. Get back to the simple little details and stick with the plan. As Connor McDavid said, Ryan McLeod said, Adam Ernie said for the Oilers, they believed in it. They stuck with it. Even though things didn't go their way, don't get your head down, and things will go the right way.
We'll see what happens, and I'm hoping for the best for the Devils moving forward, Jim. So where can my audience find you at?
Yeah, check me out at Jim Biringer on X, Twitter. If they call it a bird again, I don't know. If they do, that's fine. Whatever they call it, that's where you can find me. Get me, fullpresshockey.com. check out the Full Press NHL podcast as well. Some great guests lined up. Also, get me threads, Jersey Gym 33, Jersey Gym 33 on Instagram as well, and Nightcap Recap on Instagram. Get some fun stuff up there as well. So check it out. But again, my main thing is Twitter and X.
Well, you guys know where to find him now. Check out his work at Full Press Hockey. Jim, thank you for taking the time to come on and just talk some hockey, and hope to have you back on in the future, my man.
Hey, Trey, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to join you guys. Check it out, Locked On Devils. This man, he does great work.
I appreciate that. So like I do to close out every episode, continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.